Everybody knows we're better than what we just put out there on that field. And that all comes down to me. So that's my fault.
No Nation. Welcome into another episode here at the Renegade Report. This isn't your everyday Renegade Rundown. Another short style video for you guys, about 10-15 minutes. Wanting to pump more of this content out here for y'all. I'm very lucky to be joined by my guy, Chris Frazier of Spear Addicts. He's helped me so much in this game. Love seeing him hit 6,000. He's headed for 7,000. I'm trying to get to 3,000. We're going to talk a little FSU offense and what we can do here going forward, try to identify the problems now that we've had a little time to calm down. Like, everybody's got their complaints and opinions out there. Me and Chris are going to kind of discuss this offense and our opinions and what the next steps forward are. How are we feeling today, Chris? You feeling a little better after a couple of days or whatever, 36 hours removed?
Yeah, I mean it's told us what we needed to know, I think, and I think that's where these short content videos are going to go. Is kind of, we know that we can't make Norvell do what we want him to do because our opinions are our opinions, but I think the opinions are worth being spoke on because I think that it could change the entire trajectory of what we're looking forward to versus what we see at the now. Like I want everybody to look at the big picture. That means you got to take in the past tense of what Norvell's done with this program. And then, yes, it's in a situation right now where it's not feasible, like we wasn't ready for it. So now, what are the moves that you make to get it back on track?
Yeah, no doubt. What are those moves for sure? DJU has been a point of contention. He was really the target more so in this Boston College game. We can get into it more about to, but I guess your first thoughts there, and where do you want to go with this DJU conversation?
Well, I was going to ask you a couple of questions as far as the offense goes. When we start with DJU, the biggest question that I think that I have that I would like to hear other people's opinions on is, what is it that's off? Is this a mental aspect? Is he just not messing with the offense because he hasn't been here long enough? Did we take this for granted, maybe, that we could just plug in a quarterback and him start playing for us right away and us be successful? So just really your whole outfill on, is it time for a quarterback change? Is it DJU's, is it a mental, or what's going on as far as that go? Our wide receivers not getting enough separation. What's the issue?
For sure. Yeah, you can shoot on those questions. I'm just I was trying to set it up there.
Yeah, that's it's starting with do you feel like it's mentally with DJU, or do you feel like it's
I got you. Yeah. DJU, I think, is what DJU is. You know what I mean? I think everybody kind of talked about that. Jake Crane talked about it. We kind of went back and forth on our show. I think the problem is we all kind of thought, Mike Norvell could breathe life into it. We thought we knew exactly what DJU was, and he was going to be able to put him in a position to take advantage of his strengths and give you his best year. We talked about it. He's been 3-to-1 touchdown ratio. If we can carry that to 3.5, 4, we're going to be fine. We don't need him to put the offense on his back. But again, that's just the tip of the iceberg, and you're at a point now where you really have to question it. You're 0-2. When you signed DJU, if I'd have told you were going to be 0-2, you never would have signed him. You would have went with Brock Glenn, maybe brought in another younger quarterback that could be a transition piece or maybe help Brock along, and you transition to Brock second half of the season. So, yeah, there's a legitimate question as far as this coaching staff and who should go through going forward. And it's a short video, so, I'll give a hot take. I don't think Norvell makes a move quite yet. I honestly don't. I think they give it a little bit more time and try to get going. But if I was Mike, to your point earlier, like, we can't make him do what we think. And there's things we don't understand when it comes to clock management and the offense. But I'm having a serious talk with DJU, and we're giving Brock Glenn a shot at that first half against Memphis.
So do you feel like DJU is obviously the biggest issue of the offense? But if you was to move on to the second tier of the problem, is it offensive line play? Is it tight end play? Is it wide receiver play? And then you can kind of just go in order, from, hey, it's QB, then it's this, and this, and why. And I think that would be a good far as covering the offense.
Yeah, man, what is second worst? Woo! Can we talk about the special teams? Do we have to keep talking about offense? What's second worst? I think the offensive line has taken a bit more than their fair share of blame. I think it goes along with everything else that has gone wrong. It kind of shines a light on them, and that's you don't hear anything about the offensive line unless you either just completely bludgeon to somebody to death or it's something wrong. I think you're going to have to go with wide receivers as your worst unit, your second biggest problem. You got to have somebody that can go out there with sure hands. You've got little pieces of, this receiver can do this pretty good. You can do this pretty good. We underestimated the losses, and it's a common theme kind of across the offense. But Hakeem Williams, again, he's not there. So you're missing your one really big hit out of high school. You got Jalen Brown over, who's a second-year player. He's done really good, but similar to what we talked about with DJU, you got to have a serious talk about maybe sitting Malik Benson down even. I mean, like, he's going to have to really show something in practice as you move forward in this youth movement. You're going to have to really think about getting these young wide receivers on the field. I want to see. We heard about Dwayne McCoy and Elijah Moore. We heard about Hakeem Williams. I want to get those guys out there, because it's not like a thing of you don't have a guy that can get open. You don't have a guy that can do this that's fast enough. You don't have a guy that's tall enough. You don't have guys that are making plays. You don't have guys who can answer the call under the lights and move to tight end. That's probably the next worst is tight end. We're feeling more Biscuit. We're feeling that loss. That's, me and you both talked about it. Like, yeah, that's one of the only recruits or transfer portal guys you've lost. That, man, he was the best guy on your roster at that position. Lundy would have been a one-on-one, one of them as well, but he came back. But yeah, that hurts. Shout out Kentron Portier. I believe, he should take Malik Benson's spot as the number one guy. That's the guy they should try to get open and go to him. I saw some really good things. He's the one guy that when his number was called, he was out there going, making plays. Back to the offensive line. People aren't going to agree with me. There's probably a lot of people out there that think the offensive line was the worst spot. I think the brightest spots on the team on the offensive line. I know people want to talk about recruiting and what it can be for the future, and we should be able to mash guys. But guys, Boston College and Georgia Tech didn't recruit better at offensive line than us. Have you seen what their depth looks like? No, they just had guys who were together in their unit, and they came back. As far as our offensive line, Richie Leonard has been the best player on our offense. So it's kind of hard for me to say the offense is like worst group is the offensive line when Richie Leonard has literally been the best player on this offense. Darius Washington had one of his worst games in a while this past game, but not as bad as it's kind of made out to be. Right guard's been tough. It's been tough, but there's been enough things, creases made by the offensive line, pockets held up by the offensive line for DJU to complete passes, and they were dropped. To tight ends, to wide receivers, for running backs to make big plays, but they don't break tackles. And I know I went pretty long on this, so we can get into the next thing, but yeah, that's the best breakdown I have. It's not the end of the world, but that youth movement, it's serious.
I think when you see Portier come in and do what he was able to do, and I think Douglas has done a really good job. Personally, I think that every time the ball comes in his direction that is catchable, he makes a play. But outside of that, Benson hasn't been targeted near as, like, if you go back and go play to play, he doesn't get targeted near as much as he's supposed to. If you go watching back at Bama, he's not a big separation guy. He just knows how to man somebody out of the box, and he makes his play. So DJ doesn't trust that yet, but I'm not exactly sure why he won't attempt it when he'll just throw the ball up. That one interception was gross. When you had Roydell Williams in the back part of the end zone, wide open, you could have just loafed the damn ball in there. You could have walked it to him, really, because there wasn't nobody in the vicinity within 15 yards. So a lot of it does have to do with quarterback play. But the tight end play, you saw Morlock get pulled in the fourth quarter, and they put Landon Thomas in. He was targeted once, but he blocked better than you saw Morlock block. So there's guys in the youth, the guys that are high school recruits that people are all screaming about. that have played more or played better. I think the answer is they just need more snaps, if not the starter snaps. But offensively, I think that's a pretty good breakdown. If you want to switch to defense, that's fine.
Yeah, no, a couple comments on what you just said. Like, yeah, and guys, I'm not saying Malik Benson isn't one of the best wide receivers on the team. I'm saying if you got a quarterback who cannot get him the ball, Chris nailed it. Like, finally, he started getting to Portier's similar in that same way. He's not going to get wide open by 800 miles, but if he's got a step, he's going to make that play. He's going to make tough plays. I haven't seen Benson make those tough plays, and he hasn't had the opportunity. So either, in my opinion, you go with Brock and see if he can have a better repertoire with these wide receivers, get something going. Because before I move on from offense, there's one note we didn't touch. The biggest problem in this game, the reason we aren't getting the best out of DJU and what receivers and things we do have is like they just never can get in sync. DJU on the first drive puts it right on the money on 3rd and 7. Lawrence Toafili drops it. Here's a guy we've seen be Mr. Clutch for 3 years. Okay. And then you know, whatever, he gets it going again at the end of the game. He's throwing pretty balls to Morlock, 3 of them in a row, bricks, drops it. So it's like it's a combination of both. You can't wait till the 3rd quarter to start playing, but with him, you know, you need to get some kind of chemistry. And with this team being thrown together, to me, it's not that it's transfers or this or that. It's just the fact it's new. It's not the people from last year, and you had these NFL guys leave. But yeah, Chris is right. We were trying to cut this thing off pretty quick, so. Any last words, and we'll move on to defense? I know you kind of stopped it, but give us a closing word on the offense.
I think that the fan base, first and foremost, just be patient. The pieces are there that can fix the situation. You just had your confidence in guys that you brought in or veterans that were supposed to be able to do more. I think that, in my opinion, Brock should get the opportunity to see what he can do. We've watched 2 games in a row. What DJU has been capable of. Do I think DJU is much better than what he's showing? Yes, but I don't have the patience. I don't think that this team has the time to sit there and wait to find out when that's going to come around. We can't wait till we're 0-6 to find out whether this guy's going to come around. Most of the time, when you put somebody else in, that lights a fire under people's ass. So that might be the situation that we're in. So we'll see what happens.
Beautifully said. My sentiments exactly. And again, we appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to Spear Addicts. That's at Spear Addicts right here on YouTube. He calls it Spear Addicts Media, and they've got all kind of amazing things coming up. His name's Chris Frazier. I'm George Georgitis with the Renegade Rundown right here at the Renegade Report. We appreciate you guys.